First, thank you all for coming out tonight. I know you're at the sort of thick part of the semester where everything is coming together, so I appreciate your coming here tonight because we're going to do some important things. We're going to be discussing the nature of this campus and this community, and there comes some times when you actually have to do it more overtly. We'll talk about that, but before I begin, I want to introduce Kyle Lanham. Please stand, Kyle. Kyle is a member of the Board of Trustees here at DePauw. He is also chair of the committee that looks at student life. So the committee of the Board of Trustees that looks at all aspects of student life and student culture, he's the man in charge of that committee. He's here because the board knows what's going on. We've been keeping them informed about what's happening. The board cares about this community, and I want them to know what's going on. So they're going to be very close to this whole process. I just want to thank Kyle for traveling in a long distance to come to this event tonight. And it just sort of shows you. I like his haircut. So. Thank you, Kyle. He's my boss. I have to agree with everything. A couple important points to get out right away, and the first one is the most important, and that is DePauw may not be a perfect place, but it's a good place. And I want everyone to know that. Just speaking absolutely personally, rather than putting my president's hat on, my experience of being here for the last 3.5 years, I've encountered amazing, hardworking, tolerant, open, non-judgmental, great students. I know this to be true. It was true when you all walked in here. It's going to be true when you walk out of here. Know that. I've been on lots of campuses. The overwhelming majority of students on this campus, I mean the vast overwhelming majority, are really terrific, tolerant people. Just keep that in mind. I actually overheard this the other day. Two athletes spoke to one of their coaches and they said, what's going wrong with DePauw? Is DePauw going to hell? It's just like, what's happening? And the answer is, it isn't. It's actually not. What we are doing is we're negotiating just what it means to be together. And actually the events of the last couple days and maybe the last couple months, why they were so disruptive is they were unusual. This isn't us. And there was a sense, what I was picking up from students was a sense of, aren't we past this? Aren't we past some of these things? That's my sense. And that's a sense of a community, that's actually a pretty good community. The next major point after the first point is that we're essentially a good community composed of good people, good hardworking people, is that what we're doing and what we're talking about and what you've been experiencing for the last couple weeks and maybe the last couple months is hard. It's really hard. Complex communities and having people come together in small settings like this and figuring out how it is to be with each other, that is a hard thing. It's a hard thing at DePauw, it's a hard thing in Denison, it was a hard thing when I was at Stanford in the late 1980s, when Stanford had just gone through a period of rapid diversification. The student population had changed quite dramatically in the 70s and the 80s. I remember participating in a culture at Stanford that was really struggling with this. Duke has gone through phases of struggling with this. This is hard. It's really hard. Okay, I want you to just know that. And the other thing, and this will sound a little dispiriting in some ways, this is not going to end tonight. I think someone came up to me and they were talking about the events of the last couple of days, and there was a sense of, like, can't this end? Can't this just end? And the answer is no, it doesn't end. You are a generation that is truly experiencing a complex global world. We thought we were, when I was going to school in the 80s, the world is flat and we all know each other. That's not true the way it is for you now. Negotiating difference and negotiating community is going to be your life experience for the foreseeable future. And let me tell you, if you're going to go off to Yale Law School, or go off to a prestigious medical school, or you're going to go work for Google, or you're going to work for Apple, or you're going to work for any major investment bank, you're going to be walking into a very complex, diverse world. this is the marker of your times, or our times right now. There's one important thing that all these banks and universities and enterprises are looking for, and that's talent. Talent and enthusiasm are the things that everyone is looking for. And if I've learned anything in my life, and what most people learn very quickly, is no one has a monopoly on talent. Nobody. It comes from every corner. It comes from difference. The best companies right now in the world are those that understand that and grab talent. You are going to be experiencing this. And I'm telling you, this is the first editorial comment I'll give you tonight. If you are thought of being a person who rejects the possibility of talent coming from every corner, your career is going to end so fast your head's going to spin. If you go into a place and you're thought of as a person who doesn't accept difference, it's over for you. I'm telling you this right now. Silicon Valley, major universities, major publishing houses, these are diverse places. So this is not going to end. There's not going to be this moment where all going to be like, we're over it. Thank God this little rough chapter DePauw went through is over. We are moving into a very mature place at this university. There's actually, believe it or not, lots of aspects of what we've been going through that are signs that this is a really good place going into a really good moment. It's a sign of maturity at DePauw. It's a sign that DePauw is joining a world conversation of other elite institutions. It doesn't feel that way right now, but that's a fundamental truth. So now let's talk about 3 recent events. And I want to get some facts out, and I want to get some things out. First, in May of 2010, right before Cinco de Mayo, a student at DePauw posted an event on his Facebook page, inviting people to come to a Cinco de Mayo party. In that invitation, he put up a series of unbelievably disturbing and rather shallow statements about Mexican Americans. This hit the campus. I was in Chicago. I'm looking at Cindy. Cindy, you were trying to find me between airplanes. This hit the community hard. And why am I bouncing? Is this because of me or because of you? Sorry. Like I said, I'm looking for talent play. Please, I think this is actually me. So this hit hard. And what happened was is that a group of students, and actually a lot of students on the campus said, whoa, I can't believe this. I can't believe people would post this. And I can't believe a lot of people would accept this invitation to this party. And so what happened was a series of events just immediately erupted, and people said, hey, that's not us. And that's really not acceptable. The student who was involved in this, to his great credit, to his absolute great credit, owned up to it, came to a series of public venues and said, whoa, I just thought I was being funny. And I thought this was kind of light and frivolous, and a group of people said, no, when you put that stuff up, it really sucks, and it really makes me feel bad. It makes me feel as if I'm not supposed to be part of this community, if this is part of our fabric. So that was an important event. That happened in May of 2010, and that was just me again. Second, about a week and a half ago, a member of the football team made a series of t-shirts that he wanted to sell in connection with the Monon Bell game coming up this week. The t-shirt had some, actually not very clever, references to the male anatomy and other things, and it just was out there, and basically, word got out about this t-shirt very quickly. For those of you who are maybe freshmen and sophomores, you might not realize is that this event was remarkably similar to an event that happened just a few years ago. Cindy, I don't know, the other, like maybe 4 years ago? 2 years ago. There was another t-shirt that had sort of a similar metaphoric aspect to the t-shirt. It was upsetting to people, so what happened is this t-shirt hit at a moment that there was this other memory was fresh in a lot of people's minds. This is what I want you to remember because there was an opinion piece in the paper that actually reported on this that actually got the facts wrong. I'll give you the facts. It was Coach Robbie Long, who is the head football coach, who said, I don't want my football team caught up in this. I don't want to, because he lived through the first time the football team was caught up in a Monon Bell t-shirt. He went over and talked to the student because he was hearing the people being upset about this t-shirt, and he had said, and the student by this point he was getting the reverb effect. He was hearing about the people being upset about the shirt. The student wanted nothing to do with the shirt. So Robbie, and I wanted Robbie to be here tonight, but Robbie had a family emergency. Robbie said, I'll take the t-shirts. Robbie took the t-shirts, and he's like, great, I've got a car full of t-shirts I don't particularly want. They sat there in the athletic department's office for a while. Student Life realized these t-shirts were sitting there, worked with the student who was making the t-shirts, and trying to figure out a way to make the student, in some ways, financially whole, because these t-shirts have been removed from him. That's a complex sort of negotiation. That student apologized to a series of groups. He actually apologized to me, again, to his credit, and I think he just wanted to distance himself from it. So then also, we had these t-shirts in the athletic department office. We didn't know what to do with them. Other groups said that they wanted to do a project with him. That's actually what happened. I think there's this sort of sense of there was this swooping in of campus security with taser guns. Absolutely not true, but it's really interesting to hear a lot about this particular t-shirt event. You know, some people are like, oh, is it that offensive? Some people said, yes, it is. This is one of these moments where we negotiate what we are. Finally, the third event I want to talk about, Halloween weekend. A gay first-year student finds himself in a Greek unit at a party. He is harassed in a very, very frightening way. He then reports this to campus security that night. An investigation begins immediately through a series of photographs and other means that the student was able to get at other students, and other students cooperating with police and security. They were able to identify the main assailant. Turns out that this person was not a member of this campus community. He was a student at another university. You should know that we're working with county prosecutors. We're working with the other university. There's a no trespass order is it in place? It is in place. This person there's a police no trespass order. This person is not welcome in this community. The Student Life officers are working with the Greek unit, and I will say to their credit, they have been working. Process is going on because there's, what really happened that night, what else happened that night, so they're just looking at that. So those are three events that, in some ways, are disruptions. There's a sense of, hey, when does speech and when do actions disrupt what we are? And when they disrupt what we are, what do we as a community do about that? Now, I want to take a moment to talk about the First Amendment. Again, there's been sort of talk about the First Amendment. There's, again, this op-ed piece in the DePauw the other day, posited this sort of notion of the First Amendment, this very simple notion that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution simply says anyone's allowed to say whatever they want, they can't suffer consequences from that speech. That is, I don't know who just laughed, it was just Keith, right. That's actually not true. That is a remarkably simplistic and actually largely incorrect understanding of the First Amendment. If it were that simple, you wouldn't have to take an entire year of constitutional law in law school. There would be thousands of lawyers who would not be litigating thousands of cases before the Supreme Court about all the nuances about the First Amendment. There would be, if that was the case, there'd be no such thing as the FCC. You guys were little, but do you remember when Janet Jackson, Super Bowl incident? I mean, basically, what happens is a bunch of families are watching the Super Bowl with their 8-year-old kids, and Janet Jackson gets part of her costume ripped off, and people said, I have an 8-year-old with me, what's going on here? Community standards are enforced by multiple entities. What I'd also like to say is DePauw naturally and necessarily also has moments when speech is looked at and regulated. By the way, all of you who live in Greek units are constantly monitoring and regulating your own speech. This happens in communities all the time. It does not violate the First Amendment. This is just what happens. This is how communities form each other. By the way, community is formed in 1,000 different ways by all of you every day. Community really happens not from emails from me, a message from President Casey about blah, 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 They actually frighten me because I actually don't send them out. I was like, whoa, again from you? So there are moments when when the administration does act, and let me tell you when we act, and we'll continue to act, and you have to understand this because you're participating. We will always act when speech threatens someone. We will always act when speech implies threat, period. And by the way, all 9 members of the Supreme Court would be right behind me backing us up on that one, okay? If you're threatened, we'll act. Number 2, if speech in some way disturbs our central mission, which is education, we will act. You cannot, in class, just sit there and just shout things. You can't walk in hallways where classes are happening shouting things that are your business, because that disturbs our basic enterprise. We will stop that. You would want that stopped. As a matter of fact, there are moments in classes when people say things that are like, wait a minute, this is not working in this process we call education. I'm telling you, every professor monitors this behavior. It's what we do as a community. Third, if speech indicates that someone is not welcome as a member of this community because of who they are, because of the class of people they're in, that is not acceptable as part of this community. That sort of speech is stopped. That's what happened in Cinco de Mayo, which, by the way, the administration didn't act. We facilitated a series of conversations. But whenever those sort of moments happen, that's when the community is starting to get ripped apart, and we're going to act. And finally, when speech occurs that violates our notion of ourselves. And that's where we are right now. These 3 events, and let's just take for a moment the fact that someone was assaulted on this campus. We're going to act hard and fast on that one. But all the other things are about when speech starts pushing and pulling on what we understand ourselves to be. And that's when we have to act. And that, by the way, I framed this all as part of the First Amendment. You have to understand, this is not some sort of big brother anti-First Amendment thing. This is what we do as a community. And as I want to repeat, you guys make up the community. You do this 1,000 times every day. How you walk to class, how you talk to each other, how you react to each other, how you are with each other. That's how communities form. But again, we've had some disrupting moments, and that's why we're here to gather today to talk.